Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I'm happy to have you here to our second event in a series of webinars conducted as part of the project Escape Misinformation in the Library. The first one was dedicated to misinformation and critical thinking as main concepts and ways of dealing with it. And now we will deal with gamification and games as educational tool to use in the library. Welcome again as part of our team. Escape Misinformation in the Library project idea is to build critical thinking skills and digital media literacy skills among young people using games and gamified activities in libraries. We are preparing educational activities. We use games designed in the Center for Informed Public, which we translate and localize to our local languages. Our partner as Public Libraries 2030, PINA from Slovenia, Culture Connect from Belgium, FRSI, Information Society Development Foundation, and we are guided and supported by Center for an Informed Public. So you can see more information, you can find more information on the project website, and a few words about our speakers today. Chris Coward is research and affiliate associate professor at the University of Washington, co-founder of the Center for an Informed Public. Marcin Mitzner is a trainer, educational game designer, and program director at the Allegranda Creative Agency. So let's get started. I will now hand over to Chris. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. I will, let's see, share my screen now. Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to just do a short introduction of our role in the project. As Agnieszka mentioned, I'm from the University of Washington, and I lead a research or a design research team that's at the intersection of misinformation, information and media literacy, and games. So I bring together 4 groups. I'm the co-founder of the Center for an Informed Public, which studies misinformation and what can we do about it. My other co-investigators are the director of the Gamer Research Group, so we do game research. Kids team, which does research and co-design with children, and we have lots of games meant for younger kids. And Marmot Solutions, which is our game design company. And not surprisingly, we make games. Games to help us navigate this complex information environment that we're in. And a lot of our games, as you can see, are played in person because we really think the social aspect is important. But we also have, for example, in the bottom corner, a Minecraft game for younger children. So when designing our games, we have to first ask the question, why do people fall for misinformation? Because that's fundamentally what this is all about. And it turns out that one of the biggest reasons is simply we're all human. And by that, I mean we all have biases, such as confirmation bias. Each of us have our prior experiences, and we bring those experiences with us into a conversation with somebody else, and when we're looking at information. So for example, maybe I'm a vegan, and so if I see a report about meat, I will have a particular judgment of that article as opposed to somebody who's a big meat eater. I actually eat meat. But there's also emotions, and we know emotions play a huge role, particularly negative emotions. And those are able to stimulate people to look at information and believe certain things, to blame other people for certain things. We're all under social pressures because we all live as part of different communities. They may be in our town, our school, our workplace, and there's this pressure to conform to the norms and the ways of thinking of the people around us. And so you will look at information and share information that signals that you are part of that group, that you're part of that tribe. So that's a very important thing when we think about why do people share and believe certain information. And the other reason is that we all have our identities. And these identities are extremely important, our worldview, how we think about about certain issues, then again provides yet another filter when we look at information. So for all of these reasons, none of us really look at information from a purely objective standpoint. And these are all very much human factors that shape, which makes us a diverse group of people in the world. These are all things that we all share. And so when we think of why do people fall for misinformation, it's not necessarily because someone is less educated, less informed. It's because we all bring our prior experiences and relationships to the world. Now, of course, technology has made this even more challenging. Social media is designed to be addictive. There are algorithms which tend to amplify more viral content. So viral content gets privileged over quality content. We have AI now that has made it even more complicated. And in particularly, it makes it almost impossible, or at least impractical, to detect when something is manipulated. And in fact, I would almost go so far as to say we are now going beyond the detection paradigm. And we have to use other ways of figuring out what information to trust. So when we started thinking about how can we think of new ways for people to make sense of this very complicated information environment, we turned to games, and in particular, escape rooms. And maybe some people on this Zoom call have played escape rooms. They're typically played in physical environments, as shown in the bottom right, but you can also have online games. And in our case, we mostly make what we call packet games, or games for in-person play, as shown by these students here playing one of our games. And this makes it very easy for libraries and schools to print out the materials and just run the event. So when we think about how to make games for this particular moment, when you have AI and it's very hard to detect, we have these three principles that we bring to every project. One is that it's social. Interestingly, almost every misinformation game, and I've reviewed over 60 of them, almost all of them are single player games. And that's, I think, reflects this dominant view that, oh, each individual can just acquire the right skills. Well, our approach is different. We think it's a social, that the social aspect is extremely important. And particularly because then it can foster discussion and a collective sense making about, gosh, what do we make of this situation? What do we make of this technology? So that's very important to our approach. And it also makes it extremely valuable for libraries because libraries are inherently social places. The next principle is context. I've worked all around the world. I've worked with breast cancer patients. I've worked with people who are fans of K-pop music, and all of their information behaviors are different. And how they approach problematic or questionable information is also different. So we designed for the context. And so in the projects that we have here, we use co-design. We use members of each of these communities to help us design games that are going to be relevant for them. And this, again, is very different from the dominant model where We just create one set of skills and you apply them anywhere in the world and in any context. And the last one is narrative. Narrative is a great way to make things relevant because stories are powerful and they exist across all cultures and across all time. And it's important because you can also create these very immersive experiences where you can put people into another world, largely, especially fictional worlds, because that's really important for a kind of a polarizing and controversial topics that often come up in misinformation contexts. So we can create a fictional narrative that de-escalates any sort of type of stimulation and just create these emotional reactions. We can experience what it's like to be fooled or play the role of a villain or do something like that. So this is, again, I think a very powerful role, a powerful way to get people to think about and experience these misinformation tactics, which is very different from like the conventional, a checklist model. Let's use a checklist to, this is how you evaluate, this is how you find information. So in this project, we're doing 3 games. The first 2, Euphorigin Investigation and Chronoshift, are games that are being rewritten, creating a new narrative that are going to be relevant in the context of the countries where we're working. And then later this year, we're going to be co-designing a new game that's going to have to do with misinformation as it relates to climate change. So this is what you can look forward to. We will have these games available for you to use in your libraries that you just simply print out. They'll, of course, be in all the local languages and ready for implementation. And with that, I will turn it over to our main speaker and look forward to your questions later. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for this introduction. And I'm also happy that you showed a little bit of your methodology and approach to the games. And I think that later on, maybe we can discuss some points, or after my presentation, if there will be enough time and space, we can share our thoughts together and discuss it a little bit. But I think that on a general approach, we agree that games are somehow important as a social activity, and that we can create many different things with it and achieve different goals. And so I'll try to guide our participants through the methodology of our team. And as we are creating games for almost over 20 years now in different educational situations, I hope that this experience will help you out a little bit in thinking with games and thinking and using the games in your everyday work, right? With different groups inside and outside the library. And so now let's get to the presentation. And of course, if you have any questions or points about what I'll be talking about, please write it. Okay. So to start properly, we should talk a little bit about the definition of a game, because there are very, very different kinds of games, forms of games, but they have really similar core. And this is the core that describes games universally as a social activity. Typically, when we ask participants or players, what do they understand the game is for them, they're trying to describe it by rules, by time it takes to complete the game, by form. But if you look at it universally, then at least for me, the game is something like that. And it's really simple. That the game is intentional and voluntary complication of one's life or player's life that gives pleasure of overcoming itself. So it's really kind of playful activity. But at the same time, if you look at the game, it's really simple, right? So as you can see, we have an example of a game, which is a kid's game, a puzzle game, a labyrinth, and you have to get across this structure, right? So for many of us, the task at hand, the game is about moving through the corridors, right? And you have to search for the proper way. But if you look at it differently, and this is really often used in educational perspective tasks, then you can move around it, right? You don't have really to go through all of the corridors. You don't have to think about it. You can just take this cute little bee and guide it outside the labyrinth, right? But then the question is if it's still a game, right? And for me, the game is going through the labyrinth, right? Because you have to think about it, you have to spend time, it is intentional, right? You have to overcome the problem that the game presents. And this is universal. Like if you think about any kind of game, it will always consist of this structure, right? So to repeat it, it is intentional. So this is something involuntary. So this is something I want to do. I cannot be really forced to partake in a game because then it's not a game. So Hunger Games is not really a game by itself. And then I need to take part in it and understand the rules, obviously. But the rules themselves and their goal is to make it harder for me, right? Because if you think about it, then every game has something like that in it. Okay, and this is like the basic definition. And at the same time, I'll try to talk a little bit about the types of games, right? Because as you can probably see and you feel or you play games by yourself, there are very different kinds of games. But my approach would be to begin at the basic level of it. And for you to be able to use games in your job, you have to understand why people play. So one thing is that the games are delivered to us to create certain problems that we can overcome. And this is like basic for all of them. But then we can look at different motivations of players and we can try to understand why do they play. And this is crucial for game development and game usage in educational projects, because it explains and it helps a lot to understand why people want to play and what they are searching in the game. Because if you know it, then you can probably shift the balance of the game into different directions. So what are the basic types of games from the anthropological perspective or game philosophy perspective? Because I'll be talking about a little bit here in a simplified version of approach of two academics. So it will be Roger Caillois, which was a French author, and Huizinga, which was a Dutch. Okay, so which types of games are there? So the first and the most common one, and this is like really obvious, those are the games about competition. So it's a Nagranie. And they're really popular and they're really useful, but you have to remember that the emotions and the goals of the games, so the competitiveness can be really devastating in a way for a group that is taking part in. So in education, it is also really, really common for us to find different competitive games like quizzes, races, and the idea of the game itself is about different players being able to show how they are better, right? How they are faster, smarter, more skilled in the different categories of actions within the game. So the proto game for it was the young people from the village to be able to get up the pole that was stuck in the middle of the village, and they were able to show that they are faster, better, that they can become an adult warriors, right? So this is about fighting. Right now, it's really like many different kinds of games, both in the sport world or computer games, mobile games. They're all about fighting with others or fighting with the mechanism of the game. So it's not always about competing with other. Some say that escape rooms are also in this category, right? So the categories that I'm telling you about right now are the really basic ones, right? And they influence different categories of games that we know right now. And competitive games are really great to create momentum, right? You can get different players to be motivated really fast. So it's like, a match thrown into a really dry forest. It will spread immediately. But exactly like with this analogy, the problem is how to manage fire, right? So people tend to get involved too much. They start to compete on the different levels, also outside the rules. And it can be really devastating for the group integration and processes, right? So if you work with a class or with group of people, then you have to remember that this kind of games need to be managed after, right? So you have to look out during the game, and after the game, it needs to be closed. And it sometimes, when we don't have time or skills to do it, it can be a problem. And so then I would recommend not to go in that direction because competition creates a lot of emotions, right? And then you have to do something with them. And if you don't feel comfortable with that kind of work, then don't go in that direction. But at the same time, this is something that people will understand if you ask them what the game is, right? So they will tell you that there have to be places, they have to be rewards, some points, some kind of measurement. So this can also happen in really peaceful games, that players will come, and if they don't have the proper introduction before the game, they will try to fight. They will try to compete, even if the game is mindfulness simulation situation and so on. So be aware of that and remember to communicate the game that you want to conduct before as well as you can, so people won't have a wrong idea of what is going to happen. And so competitive games are really popular, right? Because people love to watch them. People we love to show, our skills, our dominance in a way, in a safe context, because all of the games share the same idea that you can do something within the game and it stays there, right? So this is also another point about the games from the sociological perspective, that very often they are self-contained, right? So even if you will lose in a chess match, then it shouldn't really influence who are you as a people, as someone outside of the game, right? So this is really important. And of course, if you have some sort of a ranking, if it's tournament, if you're fighting for money, then the idea is that it's not a game anymore, right? So this is something that distinguishes a game from the reality. Okay, so competitive games, this is like the most common one. The other very popular game type, which is unfortunate, I think, are the randomized game. So alea, which means dice, right? And this is about checking if you have luck, basically. It's not about strategy. It's not about how well I trained. It's not about how long, how many hours I've put into the game. Whatever the preparation, the final outcome depends on the luck. And there are quite a lot of games that hijack our vision of the world, and there is a lot of gambling online and offline. But basically, and at the beginning, the games of that kind were not about getting money, but it was about communicating with the higher power. So, you know, at the start of it, there was an idea that by rolling dice or by opening an animal, then I can see the future, right? And I can ask the higher power if it's going to help me or not, if it's going to succeed, right? But what at the beginning was a religious approach, it was after many years and ages, it became something very common, right? And not connected with religion, but with getting pleasure of the dice being thrown, and with gambling games in which I can just push something, hold a lever, and then see if the result is positive to me or not, and maybe win some money. And this is really important also, that those kinds of games, especially gambling ones, really often are not games in a pure like definition, because I'm playing not because I like to play, but because I want to get a lot of money, right? But the basic idea is that I'm curious if the higher power, the Lady Fortune, is with me, and if she will help me. So at the core level of how we think, almost every one of us will think that, yeah, of course, we are the special ones, right? So the luck is on our side, obviously, but we need to test it. And those kinds of games are also really important right now in the context of society and how it works. But from the educational perspective, it is also important to think about those games, because we can use some elements of those. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you is that maybe the games itself, so they're not really a great carriage of ideas, right? They won't really help us out to give certain educational values, but they can create motivational interest in certain topics, right? We can roll a dice and see which task we will take. We can create a map that will be uncovered with different steps taken by the players, right? So this type of games are basically something that evokes this explorational value. So we have something that we don't know, and we want to understand it. We want to explore it, discover it. So those kinds of games are really important for people, especially that a lot of us already know it from computer games, where there's a fog of war, where there are different elements of narrative, of game mechanisms that we discover on the go. And this is this kind of motivation in games. The third one, also really important, but from another perspective, those ones are about getting your emotions out. So it's about energetic actions. It's about getting your stress out, spending time together, in dynamic interactions with emotional positive mainly impact for the group and for individuals. So basically those games are something that you probably know from your childhood, and those are kind of activities like, I don't know, the basic kids games like the floor is lava, right? And you cannot touch it. And it's not about really if someone will die in this lava, right? It's not that we are focusing on how long can we go through it without falling down. Of course, this is an element of a game, but the main idea is that we can spend the time together and make fun together. And so in a world of adults, those will be the games that you play with your friends during meetings, during parties. Those also can be used during workshops. So those are energizers and different kind of activities that we do together. And this is about integrating, right? That then the basic idea is that we do something together, which is quite strange, maybe even stupid. But if we do it together, then it's okay, because we create a common experience. And so it's not about winning, it's not about luck, it's about us being together. And this is especially important in all of the social games and the games that Chris mentioned before that are putting really, really strong attention to how we spend time together. And really often it is used at the beginning of the process because it helps out to create an energy in the group. And those kinds of games, basically at the beginning, were just simple activities that the group or individuals would do after a really long and hard day, if they succeed, in getting through the day. And so it was like rolling on the mountain, right, or of the hill, or dancing together around the campfire, or jumping through it even, right? So at the beginning, it was really simple activities. Right now, we have a lot of different tools and ideas of how it can be done. But every time the goal is the same. We just want to spend time together. And the game is a sort of tool for that. We have to also remember, obviously, that it's not going to work for all of the people participating in workshop or event or the game. So in those kind of games, it is really important for people to be able to tell, stop, I don't want it. It's voluntary action. So, and it's also applicable for the different types, but this is the one that doesn't really work if there are some people in the group that don't feel really well about the activity. So if we'll be dancing, then I cannot really force different participants to take part in it. They have to do it by themselves, and they have to do it voluntarily, because if not, they will sabotage the game. And this is like also really important, especially if you're working with groups and groups of youngsters, of children, because if it's not sort of their decision to take part in the game, they can really demolish it. So please remember that there should be some sort of a safeguard of a procedure that will give them space not to take part in your proposition. Okay, and the fourth and the final one, it's about getting into the role. So it's mimikra, which means copying some behavior or getting into the role of someone else, and those kind of games, it's becoming really popular because of the tendencies of how society works, and it was popular in the old times, and now it's coming back because we want and we love to get out of the role that we are in everyday life, and this is like in a government perspective. We will be trying different roles in the game, and it is really safe, and we really love it, because then I can, after the work, I can become a paladin, right? Or I can become old grandma. And this will help me out to live through my experiences and emotions and try different things in a safe environment. And basically, at the beginning, those kinds of games were educational by the purpose. So they were created for children to train for adult life. So it was really serious, right? But at the same time, it was more playful, right? So those are the kind of games that we typically know from our childhood. So we will play policemen and burglars, or we will play home, or different kinds of situations that we can get into roles, and within the roles we can understand the world better, right? So we can get to know each other because we will talk about the situation, we will try to create it, and what is important, the outcome like of the game, and when it is a win for all of us, when it works, is when all of the participants or majority of the participants are in the role, right? So it's about synergy. It doesn't really work if there's one great actor that is role-playing the given role and all of the other players don't really care about it, because then it will flop, right? So we have to search for a situation in which, if the roles are given, most of the players should be able to create this together, right? So from the educational perspective, this is the toughest one, but at the same time, it gives us the best educational results. And why? Why is it hard? Because there is a really big barrier at the beginning, which is connected with how we see within the group. So if you think about class or group of youngsters that will come to your institution and they want to participate in such a game, then they will think, oh my God, I will look like a child, right? There is a risk of my image being broken, because this is not something that will be self-contained, but the people will look at me after the game and make fun of me. So there is a really important factor that people will need to feel safe before getting into the role. And to think about it is like crucial for it to work, because if you will not describe the rules, describe the goal of the game really well at the beginning, and I will be talking about it later on also, but this is important for people to feel safe, and they have to understand when they can get out of the game, when it will end, for them to be safe and to be able to adjust well to the situation. But if you will be able to get through this barrier at the beginning, then this is the best way to teach people, right? Because if my role and getting it well into the play is about some stuff, some skills, some information, some competences that you want to teach them, they have to incorporate it, right? So if we will succeed as a group, and so we will learn from each other, and it's about synergy. So those kinds of games work really well, but of course it's really the toughest one to put into action. Right? But if you'll be able to use it, this is the best. And right now there are many different kinds of such games. So there are RPGs, obviously, and all the narrative games. There are LARPs, there are different computer games. So a lot of people go into that direction. Some would say that it's because the reality is not enough for us, but using it, this trend in educational projects is really important, and to remember about it. Okay, so we have 4 kinds of games, 4 kinds of motivations that would explain why people want to play. And contemporary games, mainly the biggest one with the budgets, of course, and all the attention and game development teams would try to use all of them in different like field in it with different terms, but still they would try to connect all four of those. It's not really that simple because you have to balance it out. But if you will succeed, then it's a Captain Planet. So if you'll do it, and if you do it correctly, then you're there. Okay, so different approach to type of games when we'll be talking about the forms of those is to look at how they are created, which form would they take. And as you can see, those are just elements of those, but we have board games, so social games, urban games, puzzles, gambling. We have also game books. So you can look at those and maybe write me down what is missing in the green field. Can you solve this one? Because it's also a game. Ha! Thank you. That was fast. Yeah, obviously it's about escape rooms. So as you can see, I was trying to write down as many game types that I know and that I know that can work in the context of library. Those types can help you out to navigate through those. And as you can see, in the whole basket, we have from one side digital games, right? So computer games, console games, mobile games, VRs, but at the same time, games are very simple interactions, right? So they can be social games. So it can be about running and jumping. It can be about word games that we can play together. So it doesn't need to be, high-end product. And this is also something that I would really love for you to remember in the context of the games that Chris talked about, that it is about creating a social situation, really, and not about, investing like millions of dollars or euros or zlotys into creating a game. It's more about simple idea that you want to put into action. And of course, different games demand different forms, right? So as you can see, those games vary really much between themselves. So the most approachable games are the ones that use ideas, and then you can add some layers of formats to them. And I've done it in like 10 minutes or 5 maybe to create this game that you played right here. So the idea is for those that didn't have enough time or attention to do it, to connect green letters and to create a missing type of game, which is an escape room, right? And this is really easy. It doesn't really work universally, but this is an example of how you can gamify simple procedures, right? So if you don't have enough time or energy or budget to create a game of your idea, then you can try to make gamifications. And gamification as an idea is really simple. You just take elements of the things of the games that you know and put them in action in different contexts, right? So you can make a word game as I created right now. You can pick an element of a board game, for example, a dice or cards, and then try to use them differently. Create your own game out of existing structure. And this is something that I would recommend at the beginning, just to, play it out of it. Just try it out. But if you want to go deeper into different kinds of games, they are really well described online. But right now, we will focus on this one type. So it's a bingo, and then we can go to escape rooms. Right? So this is the main topic of our meeting. I'll try to shorten it out because our time is running out really fast. So there are 4 points I would like to make about it. So escape rooms and its structure. What do you need to remember? So at the beginning, I would like to voice out really obvious thing. Escape rooms are not really about escaping. It was at the beginning, and this was something really universal for the basic rooms, that your goal was to escape out of it. And it was a challenge to do it. You have limited time, and it was running out. So typically it was 60 minutes. Right now it varies from 30 minutes to 90 minutes or even longer times are there, but typically it's an activity for about an hour. And this is also really funny because it's really unique type of activity in which you are trying for it to be as short as possible. And you're getting positive emotions if you do it faster. So if you escape from there. But it's, as I mentioned before, it's not about escaping right now. More often it's about getting the treasure, getting to the certain point, getting information, connecting some things, getting, for example, computer to work or different stations to work. So it's more about achieving goal in a limited time. The basic type of escape rooms are about cooperation. We have to work as a team. So it's not the best like type of games for individual players. It's more like a group activity, but it has its limitations. And I'll talk about it in a couple of minutes. But the basic activities are about logic, observation. You have to connect the dots. You have to understand what is happening. You have to focus on different tasks at hand and then try to solve the puzzle. So it's a really strong sort of activity which connects puzzle and space, because you very often the whole idea is that you have to go through the selected space, right? So this can be one room or a couple of rooms, or you can move in your imagination, because it's not really universal that it's about space. It can be metaphorical space, right? It doesn't have to be a real one. Okay, so strength of this type of games are obviously that there is a clear goal, right? And it creates really strong motivations that can be connected with the competitiveness of the games, right? So we as a group, we are trying to defeat the game, and this creates really strong motivation. And from the game designer perspective, you have to remember that it can create not only positive emotions, but also hardships, right? It can give us stress, then sometimes too much stress can be off-putting for some of the players. It can create a conflict within the group. So this is also something you need to remember, that especially for youngsters and teens, it can be really hard to move through that kind of game, because they will start to debate, right? And there can be conflict within the group. So getting basic rules and talk about strategies or roles within the game at the beginning of it, it's really important for them to feel safe. Of course, there are some ideas of how it can be solved. You can give them tips, you can help them out, but remember that it can overturn the whole situation. The strength of the escape room also is that there are a lot of small tasks that needs to be completed to finish the game, and this can be sorted between different players, right? So there can be different kinds of the puzzles, of the tasks that you have to make, and they can use different strengths. At the same time, it can be done similar by the different people at the same time, so we can make it work for a lot of people. Not like the biggest groups, but I've seen escape rooms for 20 or 30 people that were working together at the same time. Of course, it's harder to maintain, but it can be done. Basically, the game is like for 3 to 7 people, and this is the basic format of escape room. It is about cooperation, so we can learn a lot from it, and we can get to know each other, and at the same time learn some new material. And at the basic level, creating an escape room, especially if you're working in library or an NGO, it can be made with ecological upcycling approach. So you don't have to buy a lot of stuff. You can just buy a couple of padlocks or print the game out, as Chris was talking before, and you can use your books, you can use your shelves, you can use the space that you got, and then you don't have to invest a lot of money, a lot of effort to create such a game. But there are also limitations. So the biggest one for like from the perspective of educational projects and how you work with your participants, then it's a number of players, right? Because if you look at the basic type of escape rooms, then you have up to 7 people solving the puzzle for a whole hour, right? And if so, then you have to monitor the game for the whole hour, and then you have to reset it, and you have to maintain it. So it's not that easy from the organizational perspective, but there are different like hacks and ideas of how to work around it. But you have to remember about it if you think about using those kinds of games, for example, as an event interaction, right? As sort of additional attraction, additional idea of how to spend time in library, it's limited. The limitation is also the space around you. So it is a strong point and at the same limitation of the format, because you cannot really, if you want to make an escape room about the topic that doesn't connect well with the space that you're working in, then the players will notice, right? If you make an escape room about flying in a space shuttle and solving sci-fi puzzles, but your building is an old one, you have to work really well with imagination of the players. And it's not possible, but it will influence like the beginning phase of the game. And it's also important to remember. So budget and style is also important. So as I mentioned, you can create escape rooms really like cheaply, like with not a lot of money or budget, but if you want to make it serious, if you want to hook the attention of the participants that will not go to you directly from school or in a framework or different event, then it can be hard, because there's a lot of competition and people will try to search for things that they perceive as value, right? So if you don't have enough money or time, for example, to buy good padlocks, right? But you have to buy cheap ones or used ones, they can be damaged through the game, right? So then it will probably won't work as well. So you have to always remember what you're dealing with, right? In the world of games, the concept is the most important part, right? But at the same time, if you want to create something that will be interesting for the players that know, games that have many millions of budget for, the visual part, for, I don't know, the commercial escape rooms, for example, they have like budget of really many thousands, right? So you cannot compete with that really. So this is the limitation, and you need to remember about it, that the concept has to be really well managed and addressed. Like we have to search for the very specific group that it will be created for, because if you will try to get attention of escape room players that know commercial escape rooms with printed out materials, that then it can cause some tensions, and maybe some of them won't be able to use it. And so resetting the game is also sometimes a challenge, because after the game you have to put it into place, check if everything works for the next group. And this is also something that gives additional, it requires additional time and effort. Okay, so about how you can use the game, you will be game masters, the people that are responsible for the game flow. And of course, you can be a judge, as you can see in the picture, but it doesn't have to be that way. You can, basically, your role would be to adapt the scenario that Chris and his team created for your local context. And this is something that Chris, you were talking about earlier, that you have to remember for who you are currently creating the game for. Like, how do they understand the world? What do they need to engage in the game? And what do you want to talk with them later on? So adaptation of the game is a basic requirement for game masters in the context of our project, right? Then you can be moderator, and moderator is the game master that look at what is happening within the group, and you will help out. You will try to give them rules, but in a soft way. You will try to create a safe atmosphere, but you will not interfere when, for example, the group will be debating or getting into some sort of conflict scenario. You will do it if you will take also the role of facilitator. And this is someone that try to explain what is happening. You will be trying to solve different situations that can occur during the game. And the role of a judge is someone who is as neutral as you can be, and who is trying to solve different problems within the game, right? So you will be explaining how the game works. You'll be solving those kinds of problems. And with escape room, it is also the role within which you'll try to maybe help them out a little bit, but with not with very specific tips, but it's more about repeating the game rules. And that's it. So if you feel that you have any questions around the topic or about the game specifically, please write them down, and I'll try to answer them as the best I can. So, Chris, any thoughts?
Thank you very much to both our speakers for giving us an insight into the landscape of the games and some tricks and tips about how to create an atmosphere and how to design the game so that we could carry out gamified activities in the library. There is a lot of information and resources on the Center for an Informed Public website at Loki's Loop website that I have put on the chat, so you can you can see more information there. And our games that we use in our project are being translated and localized to several languages. It is Polish, Belgian, and Slovenian, and the games are also have been already translated to several languages, and you can find the resources, find the materials on the Loki's Loop website. So I encourage you to get there. I'm looking at the chat. If you have some questions, you can ask here, or maybe some comments. Maybe you have some experiences on using games, including escape rooms, in your library, so we will be happy also to hear it. We are currently working on translations of the games and localizing the games. We are working on training materials for libraries participating in the project. We are working on toolkit, which will be openly available resource that we will publish on our project website, and we will promote it, so you will be able to use it also. And yes, so if you do not have questions now, thank you very much. Again, thank you for presentations of our speakers, and thanks you all participants for being with us. And I hope that our tips and tricks will be useful for you in your library works. And let's keep in touch and follow us on our website and social media. Thank you again, and goodbye.